Tina, and I am new at this, have never made a video, but thought I should at this point. Something told me that this timing was good. I'm here to tell you how to apply makeup. Just kidding. If you've all seen Pennywise on It, that explains everything. Just kidding. I'm actually here to talk to you about a serious subject and bullying. You're all probably wondering, what do I know about bullies? I'm no authority. I'm not a psychologist. Don't pretend to be. But I'm actually a victim. And many years ago, I went through torment. I was picked on, name called, shoved around, threatened repeatedly. And it got to the point where I would skip school. I would go to school and not go to class. I would go hide somewhere. I had gone to teachers about this. I had gone to my parents to a point, not as in depth with them. And unfortunately, numbers can sometimes rule over honesty. What I mean by that is there were a group of students that I grew up with and went to school with who chose to do some different things with their life. Let's just say that. And I chose not to partake in it. I wasn't a goody-goody. I just didn't want to do the things they were doing. So I was the outcast. I was accused of lying. I was accused of instigating. And lo and behold, when I was in junior high school, there was a counselor named Mike. And he went so far as to go to my parents and say that I was doing drugs and that I looked like I was losing weight and I was always pale and there must be something wrong with me. Well, lo and behold, I wasn't eating, my nerves were shot, and I was living such a life that I did look the way I did, but unfortunately I wasn't lying. These girls had a real problem with me not wanting to be part of their group, that starting trouble for me was what they saw best. And unfortunately, this did affect me long term. There's a lot of things that I have gotten rid of. I'm not carrying baggage around per se. Years back, I had found out that this counselor was at John Marshall, and he was not there when I graduated from there, but he had gotten a position there in the guidance office. And so a few years back, I had gone up to John Marshall, and he happened to be there, and I asked to speak with him. And when I entered the room, he asked me, he said, "You look familiar." And I introduced myself to him. And he said, "Well, hi, how are you? It's wonderful to see you. What can I do for you?" And I said, I need to tell you something. I said, when I was in junior high, I was bullied, harassed, tormented, manipulated, pushed around, name called, you name it. And nobody would do anything. And unfortunately, you, who were supposed to be unbiased and a counselor, chose to side with these girls, and then you took it upon yourself to go to my parents and tell them that I was doing drugs, which I wasn't. That was the one thing that caused this problem, because I chose not to do drugs. And you took it upon yourself to go to my parents and try to convince them that I had the problem. I was taken out of the school since I wouldn't attend. I went to live with my sister in a different city. I attended school there. Once again, I ran into a bully there. I had made friends with a girl named Melissa, and Melissa and I became quite close friends, and we did just fine on our own. But of course, there was a girl there at the school who was a bully. And I discovered this from other people before I even had gone there, that she liked to pick at people that she knew would feel intimidated by her. So nonetheless, that didn't work out. For many years, I carried the baggage that I let my parents down and all these different things. The friendship that I had that was very dear to me was destroyed. Um, and I formed an attachment with my mother. My other siblings didn't feel that this was appropriate because I needed friends my own age, but at that point, there was not any interest that I had in trusting another person my age that considered themselves to be my friend. A lot of you may resort to assuming you know what I'm talking about or whom I'm talking about. I have no bad feelings, okay? I'm not here to talk about me specifically, but I am telling you all this because I feel that I do have knowledge of bullying and what it entails, and it's a terrible thing. If making this video saves one person from feeling like they're being bullied and that they're alone and they have nowhere to go, I want them to realize they do. Keep your faith. Know that your honesty is your best friend. Be honest no matter what. And know that you're not alone. Unfortunately, bullying is a problem and it continually is ongoing. I don't care if you're black or white or green or what you are. Bullying happens to everyone. I also endured bullying when I was in college for nursing. I wrote a paper that we all had to write, and I turned it in, and those other students and myself in the class kept wondering, why aren't the grades being posted for this paper? And it just kept going through our minds. Well, 2 to 3 weeks down the road, one of my instructors, whom I had turned the paper into, had called me into her office. And in doing so, she asked me if I had gotten this paper from someone or gotten it from somewhere. And I got very angry and I started to cry, and I said, I said, there are some things I am very good at. Whether or not you believe in me in my nursing skills, I said, I am an excellent writer. I love to write. I do it a lot. But I told her, I said, I can assure you that I have written this paper on my own. And she said, well, it's very good. She said she had had all the instructors at the college read it. She had run it through multiple programs to see if I had copied any parts of it from other books, any literature, which I had not. She also said she sent it to a friend of hers at the university to look at this. The person, what he said, or she said, he was an English major, and he thought the paper was unremarkable. And he said that whoever wrote this should be a writer. Well, I take that as a compliment. However, I was very offended and I felt bullied by this instructor that she had been withholding this information for these 2 weeks from me because she had to investigate as to whether or not I wrote this paper. Yes, I did write the paper on Lorenzo. And yes, I believe I deserved the grade I got. But it was just disheartening. And the third time that I felt bullied was a job I had as a nurse working in a very large hospital clinic in Rochester here. And I had a supervisor who believed in harassment, sexual harassment. He never approached me. I think he realized that I didn't think it was funny. I didn't think his behavior was appropriate. I have a very good sense of humor, and anyone that knows me knows that. But there's a time and a place for everything, and sexual harassment does not belong in the workplace. I had spoken to a couple of the other nurses about this, and they said they knew about it, but they weren't going to say anything because they were too close to retirement and they were frightened that retaliation would occur. Evidently, one of the nurses I had spoke to had gone back to him and said something, and the harassment began. He had bullied me and harassed me. He made up lies about me, and it just got to the point where it wasn't worth it anymore. So I left Mayo, and unfortunately, a year after I left Mayo, I had gotten a phone call. It doesn't matter from who, but I had gotten a phone call, and I was informed that my old supervisor at Mayo had lost his job for the very same things that I had complained about. I had gone to his supervisor, who in turn went to her supervisor, and they hid it under the rug. And I was told management is highly protected, which kind of was saddening to me because I wasn't in the wrong. But it was so interesting that 1 year after I left Mayo, the supervisor was fired for the very exact same things that I had reported. The sexual harassment, the chasing in the halls, the throwing things at the nurses, the being giddy with them. This was a married man. So that was the third time I was bullied. So yes, I'm an advocate for those who have been bullied. If I were to see somebody being bullied on the street, I would intervene or call the police. I have no time for it. I have 2 children of my own. Um, and if I were to ever see either one of them do anything that I believed is bullying, you can believe it would stop. I'm just saying, please don't allow this to happen. Um, when I had approached Mike at John Marshall, he apologized up and down. He said, I didn't realize, I guess, what the truth was. And I told him, I said, you didn't realize what the truth was. And it caused so much anguish and frustration in me, and I lost so much trust. I've had relationships, and when someone tries to get real close to me, I stop them. And that's the reason why. I don't want to get hurt. I was with someone for 7.5 years. We were engaged to be married. And on December 19th of 2009, he walked out the door. To this day, I've never had a reason why. My son was so close to him, I had to put my son into counseling at the clinic because he blamed himself, though I told him that it wasn't his fault. My family has sustained a lot of loss, a lot of hurt, and if anything, it's only made me tougher. Both my parents are gone now, and I'm very independent. I do a lot of my own things, but I can tell you that I am not bullied, and I wouldn't put up with it again in my lifetime. Not for myself and not for my children. And I hope certainly that if you know your children are being bullied, that you can stop it and put an end to it, because it is a horrible thing. Kids are a lot different now than they were when I grew up. And I think it's important, in a sense, to protect them, um, because a lot of kids these days don't know how to protect themselves. There's so many changes that have taken place, but I have no regrets. I stood up for myself. I knew what the truth was, despite what was being said. I know there were other kids that I went to school with that wanted to help, but they didn't want to get involved. And sometimes getting involved is the best thing you can do, because it may make the difference in someone's life. It really might. I wish there had been somebody to jump into my situation when I was much younger, but there wasn't. I survived it, I lived through it, and like I said, I am stronger. Um, but bullying in itself, there's no place for it in this world. There really isn't. Everyone is different. My daughter recently acquired a new friend, and they've become best friends in less than a week. And her friend was here at our home, and I overheard my daughter saying, well, my favorite colors are pink and purple. And her best friend said, oh, well, my favorite color is black. And then she said, you like pink and purple? And I went in there and I said, yeah, I said, isn't that interesting? I said, that's kind of neat. And I said, you both have different favorite colors. I said, see, I said, you can be best friends and have, and both like different things. And it's kind of nice because then when you share what you're doing with each other, you're both probably getting exposure to things that you never thought you would based on your own likes. And they thought that was very interesting. For being 7 years old, they both thought that was interesting. So it's just different things like that. Everything in life is about approach. I truly believe that. And, if somebody asks you a question, if you're having a bad day, and your answer may come out differently than intended, let the person know. You don't want somebody saying, well, man, you're a bitch, or wow, what's your problem? You don't want to get off to the wrong foot, because I think sometimes that invites bullying behaviors. Everybody looks different and acts different. People change dramatically. They may look one way, and in 10 years they'll look completely different. That's okay. Everyone's different, and that should be expected in life. But people have different thought processes, likes, dislikes, um, and people have expectations, and their expectations might be different. But you got to realize everyone, and I mean everyone, is entitled to their opinion. Um, and if somebody says something that you don't like, that's not an open door to fraternize them or manipulate them or intimidate them or make them feel badly about their choice or opinion, because everyone's entitled to theirs. And it's because we all grow up differently that different beliefs are put out there. So I will end here, but in bullying, there isn't a place for it. It's uncalled for. It causes hurt. And with my experience, and I'm sure most of you know how old I am because I'm the same age as a lot of you, that my experience is the wounds heal, but the scars never go away. And unfortunately, I never planned to talk about this. I never planned to do a video, but I gotta tell you, there was something telling me that I needed to make this. So if I can help one person, either way, either show them that bullying can have long-term effects and it can really ruin a person's life. It can take away confidence, esteem, everything. It can really affect one's relationships with other people, because once a trust is gone, it's gone. Um, you know, I don't know how else to explain that. But again, if I love to help people, I would give my shirt off my back to anybody that needed it. I can be high strung at times, and all of you know that. But I think that's just who I am. And but if there's anybody watching this and it can help them to reach out to get help from someone, or if in fact you are somebody that bullies people, think about what I said. You are doing things that can affect someone's life and change that person's life um, dramatically. And not everyone is like me. I'm at the point now where I say what I feel, I say what I mean. There's going to be people that don't like it, and I'm sorry. But the one thing I can say is I'm honest. Um, from the time I was 13 years old, and I was accused of lying when I said I wasn't doing drugs and I wasn't, doing these things I was accused of by an adult counselor. I despise lying. I absolutely hate it, and I'm the same way with my children. I've always told them, do not lie, do not steal. Those are the only things I ask of you. I said, your kids, you're going to go through things in life that and do things that you probably shouldn't, and all I want you to do is tell me, and we'll talk about it. And I gotta tell you, my kids, maybe not Christina so much, but my kids, David in particular, has come to me with some pretty hard information and shared with me, and we've talked about it. And that's how I want my kids to be. I don't want my kids scared of me. I don't want my kids to not be able to come and talk to me about anything. Because if it's part of them, it's part of me. So, anyway, I hope you guys all have a good night. And again, I've never done a video, so if it's goofy watching it, then shut it off. That's fine. But um, please support be against bullying. It's just not worth it in life. People don't deserve to feel less than who they are and less than what they are. So thank you very much.